Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. This week's Gamescom brought us many new announcements, trailers and updates, including some for the games we are already covering here on the channel. But did the new reveals make us more excited for these games? Or leave us with more questions? Let's start with some good news for Crimson Desert. Pearl Abyss has announced the Crimson Desert Enhanced Game Edition, which is actually already available as a free update for everyone who owns the game. The enhanced version adds some new cutscenes and story moments throughout the main questline, as well as 5 new voice-over languages, which are German, French, Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese and Japanese. Arabic has also been added as a new language for the interface and subtitles. And on top of that, Crimson Desert Enhanced includes all of the post-launch updates and additions that have been released since the game came out. So if you already own the game, you don't have to buy anything separately. You simply update Crimson Desert to the newest version and the Enhanced Edition is automatically included. I have to say I really appreciate how Pearl Abyss is handling this. Crimson Desert has already sold more than 6 million copies worldwide by the middle of June, so we're talking about a very successful game here. But instead of just moving on, they are continuing to work on it, adding new features and apparently listening to what players have been asking for. And for everyone who hasn't bought Crimson Desert yet, the game is currently also 20% off, so announcing a substantial free update for existing players while simultaneously offering a discount to new players is, in my opinion, a pretty nice way of doing this. A couple of other studios could learn a lesson or two from Pearl Abyss in regards of valuing their own player base. Next is the Blood of Dawnwalker, and although I have already said that I don't plan to extensively cover the game on the channel, there are quite a few updates that I think are worth mentioning. Especially since the game is now only a few days away from release, and we've been already discussing it briefly with some of you who are looking forward to it. The Blood of Dawnwalker will be released on September 3rd, and the Rebel Wolves studio has now also published the global release times. On PC, the game will release in each region at midnight Warsaw time, meaning CST. And considering that Rebel Wolves is a Polish studio, I guess it makes sense that the CST midnight timeline is basically the starting point for the worldwide PC release. On consoles, the situation is a little bit different. The game will generally release at midnight local time, with some exceptions depending on the region. I'm not going to read every single release time to you, because we would probably be here until the game actually comes out. But you can see the complete global release schedule on the screen now. We also got a new launch trailer during Gamescom, showing us a little bit more of the story, some new combat scenes, and even a few glimpses of the romance, which Rebel Wolves have already confirmed as being part of the game. And compared to what we were seeing from Dawnwalker last year, I have to say that the game now looks noticeably more polished. Of course it should, we're only a few days away from the release, but nevertheless, you can clearly see that a lot of work has been done on the game since those earlier presentations. One thing that really stood out to me when I watched the new trailer again was the voice acting. I think the voices have been chosen really well, but more importantly, you can actually hear that the voice actors had fun voicing these characters. There is emotion and personality in their performances, and it doesn't just sound like somebody standing in front of a microphone and reading their lines from a script. Especially in a story-driven RPG where we are going to spend a lot of time talking to and listening to different characters, good voice acting can make a huge difference. So from that perspective, what I've heard so far definitely leaves a very good impression. There has also been a rather interesting last-minute update regarding console performance. According to the studio, they have now confirmed that the Blood of Dawnwalker will receive a performance mode targeting 60 FPS on day 1 on the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5 Pro and Xbox Series X. Aside from that, you will have on all 3 of those consoles also a balanced mode targeting 40 FPS and a quality mode targeting 30 FPS. And again, similar to what I just mentioned with Crimson Desert, I appreciate that the developers are apparently paying attention to what the players are telling them. For those of you planning to play the Blood of Dawnwalker on PC, the final system requirements have also already been released. I'm not going to read all of those out loud, but I'll put them on the screen so you can have a look and see how well your PC should be able to handle the game. And there is one more little piece of good news, especially for those of us who still appreciate actually owning the games we buy. The Blood of Dawnwalker will also be available on GOG from day 1, and pre-orders there are already open. And finally we have Exodus, which brought us probably the biggest news from these 3 games. We finally know when we'll be able to play it. Exodus is releasing on April 7th, 2027, and the date was revealed together with a new trailer focusing mainly on Salt, the awakened octopus companion we've already briefly seen before. We also got a little bit more information about Salt herself. She is a mercenary and a bounty hunter who has apparently survived for a very long time by not needing anyone, until she meets June. In combat, Salt pilots a specialized mech and focuses mainly on long-range sniping, quick evasive maneuvers and ink-like smoke screens that can confuse enemies. And from what Archetype is telling us, her relationship with June will apparently develop from 2 very different strangers fighting alongside each other into something where they eventually start having each other's backs. Before I talk a bit more about my impressions of Salt, there was actually something else in this trailer that immediately caught my attention, and that was June's face. We've talked before about some of the faces in Exodus looking a little bit like Play-Doh, and especially after the extended gameplay presentation, this was one of the things I wasn't particularly happy about. The same sentiment was also shared by many other players at the time. But looking at male June in this new trailer, I have the impression that his face looks more polished than it did before. And then of course there is still the question of female June, whom we haven't even seen yet. Maybe Archetype has been doing some additional work on the character models after the criticism of the faces. Or maybe they are focusing particularly on June as the main protagonist, because we already know that we won't have full character customization in the game, and they want to make the predefined protagonist look as good as possible after the previous backlash. Now let's get back to Salt, because my impression of her is a bit more mixed. I have already mentioned in a discussion with one of you that I consider an octopus companion somewhat of a lazy character design, simply because compared with a human character, there isn't that much facial animation you have to create. Just to clarify, I don't expect an awakened octopus or any of the awakened animals in Exodus to behave or speak exactly like a human. They are different species and I actually want them to feel different. Because an octopus naturally doesn't give the voice actor much help through facial expressions, I would actually expect the voice performance to compensate for that and communicate more of Salt's emotional state through the voice. I'm not saying that the voice acting is bad, don't get me wrong, but from what I've heard in this trailer, the delivery sounds a little bit too dry and too bland to me. So overall, I'm still in a somewhat similar position with Exodus as I was before Gamescom. I can see that the game is being worked on and polished, and some of what I've seen in this new trailer is definitely encouraging. But at the same time, almost every new presentation still seems to give me something that I'm not completely convinced by. Considering what I've mentioned today and what my observations were, I'm honestly curious about your own impressions from this year's Gamescom. Did you like the announcement about the new Enhanced Edition for Crimson Desert? And for those of you who are waiting for the Blood of Dawnwalker, are you planning to play the game immediately when it comes out next week, or do you want to see first some reviews? And how about Exodus? Did you also notice a difference in June's face in the new trailer, or is that just my imagination? What do you think about Salt and her voice acting? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video and want to know more about the limited character customization in Exodus, you can find my previous video about it here on the right side. And if you are new to the channel and would like to see more of my gaming discussions and impressions, you can find a complete playlist here in the left corner. Thank you very much for watching, stay tuned and game on!